What is the optimal party for Dungeons & Dragons? That's what we're going to explore in this vlog, and it's both part narrative and part tactica, because there's really two parts to Dungeons & Dragons. And as a dungeon master, we're doing the best that we can to blend both of these parts. If we can blend both of these concepts together, this is where the game really comes alive. And I wanted to framework that a little bit before we jump into an optimal party. The first is the narrative, the storytelling, the role-playing, this idea of creating a world. And behind it, the physics of that world, the D20, making various dice checks, success or failure. And with those dice checks, yes, it is binary, pass or fail, but we want there to be some excitement. We want to set up scenarios where our players, through both role-playing and dice rolling, can contribute not only to the story, but save the day, right? It comes down to that single roll. Can you make it? And you make it, and it is tabletop role-playing glory. I do my best through planning and looking for opportunities in the moment for all of my players every gaming session, at least once. Twice would be better. 3 times is a little challenging, to literally save the day, to do something cool, to create something awesome and contribute to the game. So from that perspective, what we're looking at with a party is the ability to work together as a team to overcome challenges. And those challenges could be role-playing. They could be ROLE role-playing or ROLL role-playing. Having a diverse group of not only players but characters is literally going to make the strongest party. Now, there are times, of course, D&D being D&D, where maybe you have a themed party. I ran a while ago an adventure where the players were part of a wizards guild. They were low-level wizards looking to join the Wizards Guild and find a patron. So they were going out and kind of doing errands and getting into various quests to prove their worth as mages. Some were sorcerers, some were mages, all arcane spellcasters. Hardly the optimal party. But within that narrative, I did craft and tailor the story and the quests to fit that. But what we see with D&D, outside of challenge rating, or if it's in D&D Modern with a challenge rating, the players working together to take on encounters and monsters and situations greater than themselves, having that synergy. So within that framework, we could have a party of 2. And we're putting aside for a moment, well, we'll swing back around. We kind of have to, hirelings, henchmen, pets, things like that to kind of boost out the party. But player characters in the definitive control of the players and the party. I think an average party, and I'm curious in the comments your thoughts on this, an average party in D&D is what? 4 players, 4 to 6 players, that's kind of what the game assumes. I like big games in general. I mean, Wargamer Fritz, the war games that I play, I love where we have multiple players on each team. We can all get together with our miniature collections. Board games, I love big collaborative narrative games where we can sit down. So that kind of, the more people we get and the more people that can contribute and add their unique player personality, I like that in D&D. So I aim for parties about 8 to 10 players, usually around 8 or so in any given adventure. I think that's a little bit bigger than the norm. And of course, everyone has a place at my table. Roll up a character, pull out some dice, and let's do some adventuring. So sometimes I'll have some guest players just popping in, and it'll be bumped up from 10 to 12. But I'm approaching this from an 8-player game, but I think D&D is mainly 4 to 6. So the first, right, kind of standard. You need a tank. You need some character that's going to go up there and not only cause damage, but act as a shield, act as a barrier for the rest of the party. This character is going to have high hit points. This character is going to have good damage. This character is going to have some interesting abilities. Classes that we see that can do this, if we talk archetypes, would be a fighter, a barbarian, a paladin, maybe a battle cleric. This idea of a powerful warrior, martial-based character. Second to this is going to be second tier fighters. These are going to be monks, clerics, rangers, characters that can do some damage, but they have some unique powers, maybe some mobility, maybe some range, maybe some special stuff that they're going to support the rest of the party. They're going to support and deal with secondary threats where the fighter, the warrior, the paladin is more optimal dealing with primary threats. And I'm not diminishing anyone's role in the party. Everyone's got something specific to work on. And it's like the A-team. When everything comes together, it's just a beautiful plan. Next would be support characters. Now, supporting characters are interesting. Kind of the classic that everyone goes to is the bard. Does a little bit of everything. So we're in combat, throw up some bard song. Maybe I shoot something with a crossbow. Maybe I use some spells, cast some arcane. This idea of supporting and making the party a little bit better. A cleric, likewise, not just healing, but also buffs, various dealing with undead, various bonuses, adding that to the party, right? Adding that plus something to the D20 roll, or inspiring and giving you some more temporary hit points from that level. On the back end, we've got magic support. So this is where now we see sorcerers, we see wizards, we see warlocks, we see arcane with the idea of dealing with magic and using magic to affect the game. And it could be direct damage, right? Could just be classic magic missile, but it could also be sleep spells, control spells, hold spells, charm spells. It could be area of effect, glitter dust and various burning clouds and acid, fog, meteor strikes, things like that. Could be the classic fireball, could be the lightning bolt. This idea of dealing damage from that third tier, from that third level. Fritz, where's the rogue? Well, the rogue or the thief in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, this gets kind of interesting because depending on the build and the role, they could be a second tier fighter, right? You've got backstab, you've got dual wield, you've got ways finesse to deal lots of damage. I don't put them up there as frontline fighters because rogues can do some good damage, but they just don't have the tanky armor class and they don't have the hit points for it. That's not the alpha of that class. That's not the build of that class. So what you see is a second tier fighter. You could see them as a support role, right? Using stealth and sneak and various thieving abilities to leverage that sneak attack. You could also see them ranged and support back with the arcane elements of the party. Stealth and using crossbows and range type weapons. And they could be all three or all four in that moment. Now, when those come together, we're looking at the kind of the base character classes. Certainly there's a lot of supplements and a lot of other character classes that would fit into these roles. When they overlay and they overlap, that creates the optimal party, in my opinion. Now, what you could do, sometimes it works out where we play more character classes. You might have a party where the players really want to play fighters and you don't really have a cleric and you don't have a bard and you've got one wizard, right? All fighters, one wizard. That type of party, because again, when I play, I want you to play the character you want to play. Sometimes I might have a player be like, I like playing all characters. What does the party need right now? I'm good with anything. But generally speaking, sit down. What do you want to play? Roll it up. Let's do it. If I had a new group that the party was skewed towards one type of character archetype, well, from that tactics, what you got to do in encounters is alpha leverage, really, really push and leverage the attributes of that. So I'm just picking all fighters, all warriors, all barbarians, all paladins, all tanks. You got to go full attack. You got to really push the DM. You really got to push me back, get me on the ropes, and keep swinging and chase after my monsters and really be massively, massively aggressive as a team. So if you have a party that isn't working as an overall whole with diversity of character classes, then whatever your strengths are, you got to kind of look and say, this is what we excel at. You got to really push that. You can't even give me the DM, because usually you are outnumbered. Can't give me the DM any opportunity to go after your weaknesses. And the way you do that is by really, really pushing and keeping moving forward. So the optimal party in D&D. Your opinion, your ideas on it, your experiences on it. I'm going to say covering those character classes, and I'm going to say 4 to 6 players is probably the average party size.